Welcome to Spanish. We're two expats, one from Norway, one from the US, sharing our experiences of living in Spain. Whether you're thinking about moving here, already living abroad, or just curious about Spanish culture, we've got insights, stories, and tips for you. Subscribe, share, comment, like this if you love your mom.
If you love your mom, to all the mom lovers out there. Dude, Molly, first time. Well, like not literally the second, but our first time recording a podcast in the same room.
In the flesh, yes.
Hit wide angle, boom, like 29 minutes, hit record. Por favor. An assistant today. Carlos is helping us reset the camera over here. So thank you, Carlos.
Gracias.
Dude, it feels like a real podcast now. Again, in the same room. Yesterday, I went to a concert with Carlos to see Ed Sheeran, and it's kind of the same feeling. You're so used to seeing someone through a screen or hearing a recording of them, and all of a sudden you're there in front of them. Well, okay, I wasn't this close to Ed Sheeran, but still, just like a few meters from.
Oh, I thought you were talking about me.
Well, both. That's the thing. Like, I got to see Ed Sheeran like in real life yesterday, and now I get to see you.
Yeah,
So it's like two birds in one stone, same weekend.
sure. Yeah.
Molly, how has your week been?
My week has been good. I mean, we just recorded less than a week ago, so I
So
don't,
not much has happened since last time.
other than hosting Tony, just work. And I don't want to talk about work, so
Well, then we won't talk about work then. I guess that's what happened since the last recording. We just talked about meeting up, us coming here, visiting you in Madrid. We went to, well, me and my friend Carlos, we went to the Ed Sheeran concert yesterday, which, by the way, phenomenal. Like being there in the pista, like on ground floor. He does 360 scenes, like the round angle, meaning that you can see him from several angles. Well, obviously it's going to be filled up with people, but if you show up like semi early, you have a chance to like grab a seat like super close to the scene. You just need to run as soon as the
so
gate
it's a
opens.
circle, the
It's a
scene.
circle, yeah, and he goes in circle. Okay, so like center of the stage, that station area, like he will do his thing in one or two angles, but going in a circle. Imagine if Marcadona was 360 in the cash register. Ed Sheeran would just stand there, do his thing. There will be microphones, there will be loop pedals where he uses to perform, and it's a way to like acknowledge all angles, like everyone participating there. Me and Carlos, we were talking meters from his face, and like when he comes spinning around, there were a couple of times where I like, maybe I'm making this up, but I felt like our eyes met and he was like, "You're there." And I'm like, "You're there, Ed Sheeran." Like, I acknowledge your presence and vice versa. I'm a huge Ed Sheeran fan. I didn't mind meeting up early. Last time I went to an Ed Sheeran concert was 3 years ago in Paris. I went with my sister, Otelia. Kind of the same vibe. You meet up a bit early, you enter this the 360 stage, so you just run to grab a seat close to the stage. It was a cool experience, but I will say this: I'm 37. I'm not that old, but I felt like, okay, I'm reaching the age where it would be nice to have a seat and sit down, because after traveling all day and then standing in queue for hours in like the burning sun, because they don't put up any.
You were outside waiting.
Yeah, like when you're outside of the stadium, there's no trees, there's no like construction creating shadows. If you're lucky, you're on the side of the stadium where there is shadow, but we weren't. So we brought caps or goros hats. You know those, like, what do they call them? I think it's like thermal blankets that they use. Like one side is hot, the other one is cold, so you can like easily reflect away the sun if you hold it over your head. But it was so windy, so it makes so much noise. I've just going into survival mode for a few seconds. 31st of May. So we're still in May, but like there's a heat wave. It kind of feels like it's coming. Man, it was hot
Hot, yeah.
outside. You get thirsty standing in the queue.
Did you guys drink a lot?
We brought like 1.5 liter bottle of water, and I wasn't even that thirsty then because we drank before we went there to stand in the queue. And then we thought, okay, this is a bit much water. Like, we're gonna throw it out before we enter because you can't enter with a big bottle. But we finished that bottle easily. You don't even notice that you're thirsty.
But that's also bad because you don't want to be in the bathroom during the concert.
No, but you're sweating it out, so you don't need to. I went once to the bathroom and I really didn't need it. Like the
Yeah.
rest, I just sweat it out. Oh, it's a shame. I'm not wearing my Ed Sheeran shirt now. But as I said, I was sweating quite a bit yesterday, so it wouldn't be appropriate wearing it today.
I'm glad you're not wearing it right.
So that was my highlight since the last recording. People in general, they behaved nicely at the stadium. I guess there were some foreigners there, but my impression, mostly Spaniards, and everyone was just polite, nice. Not a lot of like pushing each other. No one tried to like rob your place in the crowd or whatever. People were well behaved, even in the queues. I will say that going into the metro afterwards, that's how we got back from the stadium and here. There you push a bit. It's kind of sardines in a can when you're entering the metro there. So
Yeah.
you need to push just a tad. So overall, a very positive experience. Thank you, Madrid, for the nice concert experience. Thank you, Ed Sheeran, as well. But yeah, just about to say that I've been to a Coldplay concert here, but that is not true. That was in Barcelona. Similar experience there as well. They have some trees outside the stadium, so you can rest there in the shadow a bit. Again, in Barcelona. Other than that, it's kind of the same vibe. It's hot, but people are well behaved, and you bring some water, and you can buy some beers there inside of the stadium and other beverages as well. So, oh, it was a nice experience.
And what are we talking about today?
Today we are talking about Madrid. It will not be an educational angle. It will be my, yours, our experience of Madrid. Mine will be heavily based on just being small town boy and big city, but the lens that I'm looking through right now is Madrid. This is my second time being here. Third time if I count the time I went to TV show. That's a topic for another episode. 2 times I've been here where I spent the weekend, walked a bit around and seen some stuff. The last time was 3 years ago. I came here to visit my cousin Marta. It was pretty cold. It was January 2022. Again, it was really cold walking around in what I thought was like a good coat, a good jacket. No, not sufficient. And I should have brought boots, kind of like low top summer shoes. No, that's not sufficient in January. That's for May.
If your
That's for
ankles are
now.
showing, yeah, that's not.
And those socks, they better be made out of wool. It was so cold walking around in Madrid.
So now you've experienced the two extremes.
You know, I have
Madrid
actually.
is.
Yeah, it was cold Madrid. Now it's hot Madrid.
That's something we can say about Madrid. It's either deathly hot or deathly cold. There's a very small window of nice weather. It's been pretty short this year. I would say a
Yeah,
few weeks, but maybe that's everywhere that has seasons.
I will say Alicante, it has been a pretty gradual transition. Like a month ago, I would define it as a Norwegian summer. The short definition is you never know what weather you're gonna get. Probably it will not snow, but it might be rainy, it might be windy, it might be sunny. If you're traveling, you need to bring swimwear, you need to bring a raincoat, you need to bring
One
shorts
of everything.
and a nice scarf. Yeah. But okay, let's jump from the weather and into the actual topic. Before we dive into the topic, should we do the wow?
Yes. Your turn to go first.
Is wow a good name for it? Because we usually do expressions, but wow is word of the week.
Or words, plural.
Oh,
Words of
you
the
got
week.
me there. Yeah.
And it's cute. I mean, if we can think of another way to
I was
say it.
let's just go for wow because the expression of the week would be yow and it doesn't roll off the tongue.
No, not at all.
And you just said it, words plural. So this week it will be I will reference Jorge as I always do, but I should give some credit to Carlos as well because he was involved in using this expression and showing it to me. I will say the context. We were at ULab, the typical co-working space that I go to, someone asked me, "Hey Tony, do you have a cable to connect a screen to your Mac?" Randomly, I had it with me. I said, "Yes, I do." I pulled it out my backpack, gave it to them, and then they answered, "Eres apañado." And I was like, "Eres apañado? What does that mean?" They explained it. I kind of forgot it. And now, luckily, ChatGPT is here to save the day. Ser apañado. It's used to describe a person, usually in a positive way. Think resourceful, practical, capable. Basically, someone who's good at solving problems, making do with what they have, or just generally handy. So, in this context, it was very handy that I had the thing. I guess an added level would be me just showing like, "Hey Nash, if you use this cable, you can connect your screen." I assume there's a lot of levels to this, but again, ChatGPT will say good at fixing things, knows how to handle everyday life without needing too much help, may also mean easygoing or not fussy, depending on the region in Spain.
So eres, not estás.
Exactly.
It's like a characteristic.
Yeah, because if you say estar apañado, it's often sarcastic or negative. Like it's used when someone is in a bad or hopeless situation, like they made a poor decision. Like I'll give you
So
an
a
example.
completely different meaning.
Completely different thing. Like let's say that you lost your passport. Like in Spanish, you would say perdiste el pasaporte, pues estás apañado. And in English, that would be you lost your passport. Well, you're screwed. Like in this context, it's like you're screwed. Estás apañado.
I think I've heard that more than eres. I
They're
mean,
more sarcastic or just pointing out
I guess.
you're in distress and like, well, you're screwed. Like
But do you mean empanada?
apañado.
Because at least in Sevilla, if you say estás empanada, well, empanada or empanado, it
Eres un
means
empanado.
like you don't have a good head on your shoulders.
You know, I've heard that as well.
Apañado. No,
No,
apañado no.
eres un
Empanada.
empanado.
Sí.
No,
Yes.
what?
Empanada.
Empanado.
Or
Now I'm just gonna stop talking and let you do it because I'm just making this
but
more
it's estás.
complicated. Well, now we're in the same rooms. I can do like this. Ser apañado. That was the expression that I wanted. And then estar apañado is
Okay.
the other thing.
And then estar apañado is similar to empanada.
Please help us, anyone.
We need help.
That was my wow. Now throwing the ball over to you.
My Spanish wow is
Hacerme caso. Marry? No. Hacerme caso. Caso is like a case or your case.
yes.
So do my case. Would that be to like defend yourself in any way?
Not exactly. So it has several different meanings, but it can mean listen to me, like escúchame,
Mm-hmm.
or like believe me, like créeme, or you never listen to me. You can say nunca me haces caso, I think.
Nunca me haces caso. That would be like you never listen to me.
No le hagas caso. No, I guess you have to make it subjunctive. No le hagas caso a los vecinos.
Okay.
So you have to make it subjunctive because you're saying, well, we don't have to get into that, but the phrase hacerme caso is it has like listen to me or believe me or like you never believe me or you don't believe me.
I'm not listening or believing you now. What would you say to me specifically with this expression?
I would say hazme caso.
Hazme caso. Like listen to me. Like
Yeah. Meaning like trust me. But also it can mean trust me or my boyfriend said it's like a kind of a negative. It's not the nicest thing to say.
Okay, so in the heat of the moment or a discussion, you're like, hey, hazme caso.
Yeah.
But hazme caso or hazme caso or
Hazme.
hazme caso.
Haz is the imperative of hacer.
Hacer.
Like hazlo.
Okay, hazme caso.
Another one to add to our list of things
Another
that we
one.
need to use in our vocabulary.
You know, either as a summary in one episode or maybe a short standalone episode one day, we could go through the expressions again because we're starting to pile up. I forget easily and I need to practice.
And I feel like all the ones we've used are very useful things, and people don't really teach you things like that. I
Do
don't.
you mean classes that they don't teach you, or?
Yeah, I mean, there's YouTubers that teach you useful phrases like that, but
Mm.
it's not something that there's a lot of, I feel.
I will say my Spanish class, they will throw a lot of expressions at me. It's more like I'm not good at working them into my vocabulary, like using them on a daily basis. That's where
Right.
I fall short. Like I will write it down during class and then I'm like, oh yeah, this will be nice. And then I throw it out the window. And truth be told, I'm kind of starting to do that with the wow as well. Like I just like list them up. I was like, this means this. Like I literally needed to use ChatGPT now. This wasn't the most complicated one, so I will remember it, I think. But ask me again in a month, and I don't know.
We'll have to do a review. Also, like, even if you understand the meaning, it doesn't mean that you know how to use it in a real life situation, you know? Like that's happened to me a lot of times where I'll be using an expression
Mhm.
in and I know what it means, but I'm just not using it correctly.
Well, trial and error. It's kind of like a kid trying to use an expression and like, oh, you ignorant kid. And then the adult hopefully will correct them. There was a dude who used to say to me in terms of learning a language, you will call the horse a toilet, everyone laughs at you, and then you go about your day. The more you make a fool out of yourself, the more likely you will remember that was not the right way. Like shame is useful,
Yes.
embarrassment is
Yeah.
useful.
Yeah. You'll never forget
That
that
time
word.
I made a fool out of myself. Should we dive into the topic talking about Madrid?
Yes.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Let's start off with my perspective. I'm Tony. I'm a Norwegian dude from a small town, a small fjord actually, in the northern parts of Norway. I grew up my first 19 years there. Apart from just 1 year in a city called Trondheim in Norway, maybe there's at, at that time 100,000 plus people living there. Lived there 1 year, then I moved to the other side of the country to another small pueblo. This one had maybe 2,000 people living there. I lived there for 10 years, meaning that up until I was 30 years old, for just 1 year, I had lived in a quote unquote bigger city, or at least a city. Then I moved to Spain, living in several smaller pueblos there as well. Now I live in Alicante. I've been living there for 3 years. It's around 300,000 people living there. That felt like a huge contrast to where I was used to living. Now it's starting to feel a bit smaller after having spent a few years there, traveling to other bigger places. And now sitting here in Madrid, just walking in a few streets today. Yesterday, taking the metro to the stadium to go to the Ed Sheeran concert, coming back. I am realizing that I am such a small town dude still. Don't get me wrong, I adapt easily, but at heart, it's everything from just not thinking about like how should I approach the metro, what linea to grab to go to where, subconsciously be aware of how long does it take to get to the other side of town or just the other side of the center. In Alicante, you get from point A to point B in 50 minutes.
And in Madrid, it's when you're taking public transportation, it's like
Mm.
40, 45, typically.
That's like average expectations of going to somewhere.
To meet and yeah, to meet someone, I guess depending on if you're central, I guess you wouldn't have as much time, but yeah,
Mm.
for me, I live a little bit north of the city center, so I
I
feel
feel
like
like
I'm always taking almost an hour to get places and it's not the most convenient.
I always think about how you want to go to the ayuntamiento in a small place. It's you carve out a block of time in your calendar and that's it. I would expect here it to be like a day project or at least half a day project. Getting there, waiting in line for whatever clerk to help you out, and then going back home and then the day is almost over.
Well, okay, but if you're a small town boy, I guess does the thought of living in a big city scare you? Like a city as big as Madrid?
It kind of does. It kind of does because
Why?
I think it's less about the practicality of things because there's lots of examples of people transitioning. One example is my cousin Marta that we met up with today. She grew up in another town, but like right next to mine. Basically, no one there. Also a fjord. She lives here in Madrid. She has lived there several years. She came from the same roots as I. And she seems to be thriving here. Like Madrid is definitely her place. Like living in a metropolitan city, a place where there's some hustle and bustle. You make a bit of effort in terms of like outfits when you leave the house. There's so many options when it comes to wining and dining or cafes. You can choose to go to a new place every single day. Again, very much her vibe. It's not from a practical standpoint. That's not the problem. There's a sense of safety for me knowing that I can drive within 10 minutes or 50 minutes to a place where I can walk out of the car, I can scream as loudly as I want, and no one will come and bother me. Like it's, I know, like it sounds super weird, and I rarely have that need, but it's
To scream?
to school. Well, every once in a while, it's nice to just, "Wah," but but it's more about being left alone. A more realistic example is where can I bring my dog where one, she can run without a leash, two, she won't be disturbed. She so easily gets disturbed by city noises. Not cars driving by and like people chattering, but all of a sudden there's construction work or someone dropping something big or the worst fireworks or sounds that kind of sounds like fireworks. Imagine the garbage truck coming by and they will have some like hard, almost like industry sounds of like metal banging or plastic just slamming, which kind of sounds like a firecracker. That always throws my dog off. And she enters like this panic mode and she just wants to go home. Then the solution would be okay, let's just go in the countryside. Let's just drive 10 minutes, 15 minutes, go somewhere chill, and then just like not be disturbed by society. I don't know, maybe I'm using my dog as an excuse
It sounds
sometimes.
like it, yeah.
Let's compare it to socializing. I would consider myself to be an extroverted introvert, meaning that I love people, I love big places, I love coming here to Madrid, but I know that Sunday evening when I'm back home, I'm gonna be dead tired, and it's gonna be the best feeling ever to just be left alone. What was the question again? Like, oh yeah, if I could be happy here in a big city. I could be happy here. Kudos to Carlos who's resetting the big camera in the center here right now, experimenting with three angles.
No, the question was not if you would be happy. The question is, are you scared?
Oh, that is true. Question was if I was scared. I would, but I also have the mindset all big changes are scary.
Yeah.
When I first came to Spain, even though it was a fairly small place, it was a small town outside of Benidorm. Coming from one country to a new one, not being in control of all the norms of society, of people, the practicality, where do you go and find this one thing, or just understanding some practical aspects of like the day to day. Like it wouldn't be to start over if I moved to Spain, but I would need to think in a new way or outside of the box. One thing, where do I go to be left alone? Where do I go to like disconnect? How would my dog feel if I lived here? Obviously, there's dogs here. There's people who are introverts living here in Madrid.
It sounds like you're making excuse.
I so many excuses that I'm making because on the flip side, I want to spend more time in big cities. I want to spend more time here in Madrid. I want to get to know the city a bit more, but I also want to get to know big city life a bit more.
I think a lot of people come from a different country and they say, I want to go to Madrid or Barcelona to get like the real experience, right? Or get like a feel of, and maybe it's an easier transition. I guess in your case it's not, but
Mhm.
people just gravitate towards the big cities because you'll have more international group of friends or opportunities. And so wondering why you landed on a small town in Alicante
In
area?
Alicante, yeah, the small town outside of Alicante. The short answer is there is a lot of Norwegians there, and for first time being living abroad, it felt like a safe transition or an easier transition. There's others who speak your native tongue and they know how the system works, and you can befriend them easily because you're kind of in the same situation. On the flip side, it holds you back. After a year, you realize that you're not integrating. You can have a nice life, don't get me wrong, but you're not experiencing Spain for its true culture. Like there's so many things to be discovered, and there's so many other nationalities to be around as well. And also, it's cheaper to live in a smaller place. Like you can have a more roomy apartment or even a townhouse depending where you're situated.
I think the comfort part, like the cost and the comfort part, that I can understand. That makes perfect sense. All the other excuses you've given for the garbage can.
For the garbage can. Let's throw the ball over to you. You came here from the US, but you did not come from a small fjord.
No, I didn't come from any fjord. Lived in the US. I was born there.
Mhm.
And I was born in the Midwest, so it's a really small town also in the middle of cornfields. I guess the difference for me is that I moved a lot throughout the US.
Mhm.
So I've lived in small towns, but I've also lived in big cities. And I think, like, I went to college in Chicago,
Mhm.
university. I think just having that experience as a young person, like if you just do it because you don't have any fears, you don't have any hesitation, you just do something like that, it opens you up to in the future, like you know that you can survive in a big city. Whereas if you wait till your 30s to start thinking about moving to a big city, you're like more practical. You're like thinking about cost, you're thinking about how am I going to be comfortable, like
Mhm.
what are the apartments like. I think just having that exposure at a young age is a big help to getting you more comfortable to doing that.
Yeah, just being exposed at an early age, that makes a lot of difference. Like I wasn't. Like my point of reference were knowing other people having done it or just watching TV.
No, but when you're young, everything's exciting and you survive, you know, you make it work,
Mhm.
obviously. And then you know that for the future, it's not some far away, scary thing. It's like
Mhm.
you survived. Maybe you ate ramen noodles every day, but you made it
Keeps you
work.
humble. Ramen noodles.
Exactly.
You chose Madrid.
Well, not really. My boyfriend lived here
Mhm.
before, so he knew how the process worked. He knew the neighborhoods. He was familiar with the city. And so I don't know that I would have picked Madrid, honestly. Maybe Barcelona.
You would maybe have picked Barcelona if you came alone or you came with someone.
Just like in general.
In general.
Yeah, because I do like the beach and I do like a more outdoorsy vibe. That's,
Mhm.
you know, coming from California, it's I would say that Barcelona is probably the most similar.
Mhm.
So for me, the transition between California and Spain, I think Barcelona would have been the best option.
Because of the beach and outdoor vibe
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Had you been to Barcelona before you moved to Spain?
Yes, one time for
Mhm.
a few days. But I just said I'll try Madrid. Why not? We can
Mhm.
always move if I don't like it. But people always ask me, why did you choose to move to Madrid? Why did you
Mhm.
guys not move to Sevilla, where my boyfriend is from? I cannot see myself starting from zero there. It's pretty small, but I guess more than the size, it's just the culture is very different from Madrid. It's not as it's different.
It's different. Is it fair to say it's more international here in Madrid? Yeah, I want to ask two questions. One, is it more international here, both in terms of expats living here, but also how you see mainstream culture take place? That's one thing. The other question, I forgot actually. So let's start with the first one.
I This might be a controversial statement, but I don't think it's as international as it has an international airport,
Mhm.
but I think that's the most international thing about it. And there are a lot of foreigners, but there's a lot of foreigners everywhere in Spain,
Mhm.
especially in, you know, the bigger cities. I would say there's a lot more native Spanish people here than, or I guess Spanish speaking. There's a lot of people from Latin America.
In Sevilla,
No, in Madrid.
in Madrid.
Is
Okay.
that what we're talking about in Madrid?
We're talking both about Madrid and Sevilla, but you're describing Madrid now.
Yes, yes.
Mm.
Yes, I don't think it's as international as everybody thinks. Sevilla it has a university, like a big university, but it's even less international than what I would describe Madrid as. And the culture there is so deeply rooted that I feel like being a foreigner there is it's harder. It's harder to fit in because their traditions and the culture is so antiquated, or it's just so stuck in the past
We're
in a
talking
good way.
about in a good way. Are we talking about Andalusian culture, like local culture? It's less about Spanish culture in general manifesting in Sevilla and more about like how the Sevillanos, like the local Sevillans, do things. Is that what you're referring to?
Yes, like their holiday, like the things they celebrate, and even the way they dress. And that's something that is also, I think, Spanish in general, is that in Madrid, people dress very well.
They dress to impress.
Yes,
Hmm.
more so than other big cities in the US. Big cities in the US, you can wear yoga pants. Like it's a more sporty for women, a sporty vibe. And here in Madrid, the women dress very nicely. And in Sevilla, they dress they dress very well also. You don't leave the house without looking, putting makeup on and wearing a nice outfit. The taxi drivers are wearing like nice button-down shirts. I don't know if that's the same everywhere, but even taxi drivers in Sevilla, they take the time to wear a nice shirt, nice pants, jeans. You don't really wear.
They don't wear jeans. They wear proper pants.
The taxi drivers,
The
yes.
taxi drivers, yeah.
And then the people just tend to follow suit. So it's just a different culture. It hasn't become, even though there's a lot of tourism there, it's not, the international norms have not changed the way that people in Sevilla carry themselves.
So could it be that Madrid, being the capital of Spain, being the biggest city, they get more international influence? Therefore, people dress to impress here, but I was under the impression that they maybe take it up a notch in Sevilla. Like day to day, we're not talking about the flamenco dresses or the more traditional outfits, but like everyday wear.
It's just a very traditional way of life. Like maybe when the church was more active, you just don't really leave the house without dressing nicely.
To recap, if I understand it correctly, your impression is that they dress nicely in Sevilla, they dress nicely in Madrid. It's a tad nicer and maybe slightly more traditional ish in Sevilla. Here, it's more dress to impress, the same way you would dress to impress maybe in New York.
But even in New York, there's a heavy culture for
Yoga
wearing yoga
pants.
pants
Yeah.
and workout clothes. Like that's your outfit for the day. And maybe that's a European thing. That's a broad generalization, but it's not as well accepted here, I feel.
My impression of what you're saying is it's the same in Paris, it's the same in Rome. I'm not saying that you're entering a catwalk, but people will be a bit more self-aware. You don't have a responsibility per se to like dress up, but I don't know. I think if I lived here in Madrid, I would wear more shirts, or at least I would wear clothes that are a bit nicer. I will say that the last year and a half, I think it came with me starting to go to more dance socials that I would wear more baggy pants and more baggy t-shirts, which is the opposite of like dressing up. I don't know, it kind of made sense with the vibe I was going for. Now that I haven't danced for a year, I'm starting to realize more and more that hey, you can have pants that are not super baggy, because I transitioned from really tight clothing like some shirts and like skinny jeans to the opposite, baggy t-shirts, baggy pants. Now I'm finding myself bringing out some old outfits from my closet because I want to step it up a notch when it comes to like, look at me now, I'm wearing not a nice shirt but it has buttons. Like it will.
The buttons are, yes, a nice tie.
It's even a collar here. Yeah, I know it's open. There's not any ties here, but I think I would put a bit more effort into how I dress. And that leans into what I perceive as a bit of hustle and bustle that you have in Madrid, that you have in a lot of bigger cities, Barcelona as well. And that leans into another impression that I have of bigger cities and why even though I'm scared of Madrid, I guess I am. I kind of
You
am.
can, yeah, this is a safe.
Yeah, this is my confession. I'm scared of Madrid, okay? I hate to say it. This small town boy is nervous, is anxious. Okay, I'm gonna digress a tad. Do you want to know about the first time I went to Barcelona? I was so full of anxiety because it was my first time working with Canva. I used to do some stock photography for Canva. I was like one of the quote unquote official photographers in Spain. They had contacted me to go to a food market that's pretty famous in
La
Barcelona,
Rambla.
Mercado de la Boqueria, a food market, and they have a lot of different things there. Picture like a tapas spot times 100. Like that's the food market. And they had contracted me to go shoot there, and it was my first job with Canva, so I really wanted to impress them. It felt like a test shoot, kind of. And I couldn't get a hold of any of the people working there. And mind you, this is like 4 years ago, and I didn't speak any Spanish at the time. Nobody answered the emails, nobody answered like the phone calls, and just decided to wing it. I said, screw it, I'm just gonna book a trip to Barcelona, meet up at whatever office there. I went there and I was transitioning to like a different camera. So at the time, I didn't have like the proper camera that I wanted to shoot with. So I went to this camera rental store. I rented like a nice camera and a lens. I showed up at the La Boqueria. And keep in mind, there were so many moving elements, like emotionally inside of me. One, it was my first time being in Barcelona. Second, I was going to shoot for like a big company. So it, like, it was enough hustle for me. So in terms of transportation, I think I took a cab. It would make sense to like just use like some metro going like a bit back and forward or things. I was a bit lucky though because I just randomly booked the cheapest place to live at, and it was like right next door to the food market without me noticing. And like the camera rental store, you could walk there. Like it would take a while, but you could walk there. Long story short, people weren't at the office there. I couldn't book the shoot. I couldn't get them to sign the right papers, like the permit slips for doing the stock photos, because they were on holiday, as you are in August in Spain. Like all offices are closed. I was nowhere, but you live, you learn. And I decided to like go back with the camera as well. What I wanted to point out was the main reason for me to not use the metro going here and there was I was just too scared. Like I was so built up with anxiety of all these other things of how do I get the permit slips? I don't speak Spanish. Okay, I hope to speak enough English that I can get this done. And if I don't get this job with camera, I will like blow my big shot of doing whatever. And again, like if you're a small town boy, you just or dude, why do I say boy? I'm a grown up man. God damn it, like. But just being so nervous, it was like I can't be bothered with big city things like going with the metro. Like it's just too many things. I'm just gonna like start shaking and end up crumbling on the ground. Yeah, the main reason for me not using public transportation my first time in Barcelona was just it was just too much for me. I couldn't be bothered with it.
I mean, public transportation is hard to manage because different cities do it differently, and you can get on the wrong train and then
And
it
then
feels like the end of the world. But we took the metro today. Did you have the same feeling?
no, not at all, because we're talking 4 years ago, the Barcelona experience. By the way, I did get to shoot more with Canva. I just explained the situation, and they were like, "Okay, cool, let's do another shoot somewhere else." And I'm like, "That's it? It was that easy to just reshoot and do something else." Again, you live and learn. It's kind of like not a numbers game, but life is life. There will be challenges thrown at you. You roll with the punches, and if you go in the metro and you go outside of the city, well, you can just take it back again.
Yeah.
That I think that happened to me in Paris. That was like one of the first times going with the metro alone, and then I took it way too far outside of the city. And then a dude said, "You sure you're going this way?" Like,
You're the last one on the train.
yeah, it was just no one there eventually. And it's like, no, take this one and go back there and do whatever. I'm like,
Yeah.
thank you for helping me.
The one in London is pretty easy to get mixed up, so
To get confused on where to go.
and going the wrong way, even if you have your Google map,
Yeah.
it's we still got turned around. So different systems work differently, and some of them are pretty unforgiving. So I understand that fear, but
Mm.
I've been dealing with it since I was 18 years old, so it doesn't scare me. When I came here to visit in Barcelona, and I
Mhm.
took the public transportation by myself, and I don't think I had phone service. I don't know. I was by myself, and that kind of stuff doesn't scare me because I've done it before. And I think it's just a matter of exposing yourself at a young age.
We are talking about one practical side, but heavily the emotional side of things. Like the main root problem in everything up until now is emotional. Like everything is a emotional problem if you make it that. As you said, if you have Google Maps or another app, you can prepare yourself pretty well on what parada, what like metro station you need to go to, or bus stop for that matter, and you get all the connections there. And if you're in doubt, there's usually someone to ask. You're like, "Hey, is this the right one?" And they're like, "Yeah," or "No," or maybe they'll try to rob you. No, that has
Here in Barcelona, yes.
it still hasn't happened to me. Not one person has tried to rob me in any big city, like in Paris, Barcelona, Madrid, Mexico City. No one has ever tried to rob me, or they didn't succeed at least, and I didn't
You
notice.
were, yeah, unaware.
Me wearing, especially in Mexico City, wearing baggy pants and baggy shirts, I think that kind of helped showing that, like, hey,
Don't mess with me.
don't mess with me being a tough guy. Kind of.
Yeah. That's good that you haven't had a bad experience with that.
Madrid is not the most amazing city you have lived in.
No. But I like my job. I like my social life here. I'm happy. Everything else has gotten better, but it's not the most ideal city.
Do you find any extremes here in Madrid? And it's a very broad question. Extremes could be, do you find the most extravagant dresses here in Madrid? Or the opposite? Are there some people really rocking yoga pants here in the city? Like, do you see that happening?
I mean, yes, you can, but I guess when I said that people dress nicer, I just mean in general. It's not like you don't ever see yoga pants in the street, but they're probably going to work out. They're not wearing that outfit as their whole day
Mm.
outfit. Extremes that I've noticed.
Doesn't need to be outfits or people. Like, are there any extremes in Madrid?
No, I mean, I would say the workout culture. We kind of talked about it
Mm.
yesterday, but the workout culture here is so much different than in the US than what I'm used to. It's very relaxed and just not as intense, I guess.
Wait, are we talking about work out or
Yes, work
work
out.
out,
Yeah.
like exercising our body? It's more relaxed here. That's an interesting statement. I would almost expect you to say the opposite. In general, like in Alicante, for example, I compare that to how I see people in Norway. People are fit, people work out, they take care of themselves. Like people do that in Norway as well. But still, it's something about living in a country that's harder if you're living on the coast. There's the culture of going to beaches, chiringuitos. You're undressed more often. Maybe you get more self-aware and you take care of yourself just to be comfortable taking your clothes off.
I think that definitely plays a factor.
Mhm.
Like wearing less clothes, because in Spain you wear less clothes than in other countries.
Mhm.
You definitely have to be more mindful of your body
Mhm.
and how how it shows up.
There's two things that I notice here in Madrid. One, I noticed because I'm here, I'm walking in the streets. The other is references online. So, what is my observation here in the street? There are so many beautiful ladies here. I'm sure there's a lot of beautiful dudes there, but they haven't caught my attention. But I was mentioning to my friend Carlos yesterday, like, dude, there's so many beautiful ladies here. One thing could be that there's just more people here. So, as a pure numbers game, the more people you are here, if you take the one most beautiful people of 1,000 ones, you will find more of that here versus if you're in a town where there's not even 1,000 people. Like the nicest one of all 1,000 people there versus the nicest looking ones of how many million people live here in Madrid? In Madrid, capital de España, it's expected to live 3.5 million people this year.
That's within the city of
I guess that's like within the city. Let's scroll
3.5.
a bit
Okay.
down. Maybe with everything connected to Comunidad de Madrid, it will be closer to 7. Beautiful people. It's a combination of genetics, they work out, and dressing to impress.
So you're looking at their outfits when you're saying that
Yes,
they're beautiful.
yes, that's part of it.
So style, their style.
There's class.
Yeah. So it has nothing to do with their face.
Oh, it definitely has something to do with their face as well. Let's say you have, I hate to be so specific like this, but let's say someone who's nice looking, like they're not a unicorn, but they're nice looking. They have like nice genetics. Let's say this person put in a lot of effort in doing their makeup, their hair, and outfit, and they know how to walk in high heels. They don't have like the farmer's walk. And now let's take the same person and they wear old saggy yoga pants. They have not washed their hair for a week. It's just put up in a bun. Makeup is non-existent. They never use any facial cream. Same genetics, but one's a head turner, the other one's not. So maybe it boils down to more putting in the effort.
I also think that there's just more money here. So if you put more money into your outfits, skincare is not free.
Mhm.
It's not natural.
It's not.
So you pay a lot of money, you pay, to have nice hair.
Mhm.
So if you make more money, if you live in a bigger city, I think it's normal that you have a better appearance from the outside.
That makes
Money
sense.
money helps.
More money is pumped into society, the aesthetics will rise. So I said I was gonna mention two contrasts. This first contrast is aesthetics, how people look, how I turn my head on the street when I'm walking here. The other one is culture. It's the capital of Spain, as we just said. If you count surrounding areas, there's 7 million people living here. Whenever a big movie is promoted internationally, they come via Madrid. If there's a big premiere or something, Madrid. If there's a concert, Ed Sheeran was here. Ed Sheeran will not come to Alicante for now, at least. Culture in the sense of content creation, even marketing agencies, like the big ones. If you look up like some boutique marketing agencies here and you see how much international work they do, they will work with brands and known artists from the US or England or just like internationally. You don't get that in Alicante. Don't get me wrong, there are some really talented creatives here, but you don't have the companies. As you said, money is not pumped into Alicante the same way as in Madrid. So if I was going to focus on working with local clients, I would or agencies, as I'm referring to specifically, Alicante would be the place 100%. And look, maybe there are some influencers doing great things in Alicante that I don't know about. Maybe there are some podcasts there. Maybe there are some YouTubers, but they're not interacting with like the local society in a way that I notice them. So for me, Alicante, there's no place where I can rub shoulders with like-minded creatives. Again, there are some creatives there, but there's not a hub. There's a hub here in Madrid. I would like to get exposed to it. Like the goal wouldn't be to infiltrate it and like make the right connections and uh,
Sell your soul to the.
sell my soul and maybe elbow myself a bit to achieve some higher metric. But I would like to be exposed to some of the creative aspects and maybe some serendipity. And if nothing else, just like chit chat with some high achievers within the creative space. That would be super cool. That's one of the things that draws me to Madrid. So, despite, as we discovered, that I'm kind of scared of Madrid, I'm also drawn to it.
Yeah. Would you say Alicante has a vibe of high achievers or not as much?
There are high achievers there, but I don't notice it when I'm walking around there.
It's like the sparkle of Madrid. People want to come here because of the name. It's not really anything else but
The brand.
yeah, or how it looks from the outside.
If I needed to choose a city today to move to, it would 100% be Madrid. No
Okay.
doubts.
So by the end of this podcast, you're going to sign a lease
Sign a lease.
to
Me
live
and
here.
Polly, my dog, we're gonna try and find a park where she can do her daily walk, where there's sufficient shadow. She doesn't get cremated by the scorching heat here. Yeah, people, things, places in life can both scare you and attract you. Like it has happened to me with people, with friends, with some past partners. They have on one hand scared me, but the same part that has scared me has been like this powerful drive maybe that has attracted me as well. Like you want to be exposed to it. So some of the hustle and bustle here in Madrid, it scares me, but I want to be exposed to it as well.
Yeah, like what is the worst that can happen if you move to Madrid?
That I end up crying and not wanting to take the metro.
I mean, you can always move back to Alicante.
Hey, that was my mindset when I went to Spain for the first time. It wasn't a big place, but you're moving from one side of Europe to the other. I didn't have a breakdown, but I did have a moment where I really started to question, what am I doing here? Close friend of mine told me, you can always go back. What's the worst thing that can happen? And if you don't really take that motion into consideration, it becomes one of those sensations where you're trying to flee it. It's kind of like the flight or fight. But if you sit with the emotion, it's a first world problem.
Right. And it's a problem that like our parents' generation didn't have to deal with because you didn't leave your you didn't have the choice because you just didn't leaving was not an option. It wasn't a thinkable like a tangible choice for them
Mhm.
option. We have the beauty of being able to live wherever we want and work wherever we want and you just have to lean into that.
The luxury of choices.
And there's even more choices in Madrid, so
Ah, so you're selling the idea of Madrid here.
yes. Isn't that what we're trying to do?
Maybe I'm selling the idea of Madrid to myself here. It's kind of like having this open discussion, admitting things out loud that I'm almost a bit ashamed to admit to myself. And then you say it out loud, and then you realize, well, it's not that bad. You can always do something about it. Every great big thing involves some kind of change, and change is scary, but it's always worth it when I look back on it. For me, it will be two aspects. There's the emotional one where I'm just shit scared and don't know what to do. And then, not to get too spiritual, but it's kind of like the observant one. And in this case, the observant one has some data. He has seen things happen in the past. He can observe me now. I can observe myself and say, you feel this way, but from data, you know how things can play out and you know what to do. So if you reach the point where you're crawled up in foster position on the floor, okay, allow yourself a few minutes of that. And afterwards, you pick yourself up and you solve your problem with some tears.
Yes, but you'll come out on the other side.
Were you scared when you came here?
No. Well, I was scared of the language barrier.
The
Yes.
language barrier.
But that's it.
So coming to Spain and the language was the biggest.
Yeah, that was the only thing that scared me.
So not like this city specifically, Madrid, like you apart from language, nothing that scared you.
No. It's actually, it doesn't feel that big to me. Like whenever people tell me it's the capital, I always forget.
You just forget. My God, our backgrounds are so different. It's crazy.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess I just think of like all the famous people, like Spanish people, are here.
Mm.
And I guess because I don't see them, or I don't know, I don't feel it's not like New York where you go and you see all the big celebrity, like the really famous movie stars. Or LA, they all have homes there. If I saw famous people out in the streets all the time, then I would be like, oh, I'm in the capital. Like I'm in a big
Mm.
place. And maybe it's just because I don't know famous Spanish people, but
That's interesting. Where can you go to see famous Spanish people in Madrid? Is there like a Beverly Hills of Madrid?
Salamanca is,
Yeah.
I think, I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure where they live, or but it's a really expensive neighborhood.
Yeah. Okay. So there's places where there's a higher probability of seeing celebrities. Let's say you go to like center, like Plaza del Sol, it's called. Can you see celebrities there?
I haven't, but I also don't go there unless I absolutely have to. I would never choose to go there.
Because it's kind of like a tourist trap.
It's, yeah, lots of people, no trees. It's,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah, the first time I went to Madrid, I met up with my cousin Marta. It was a place fairly close to Plaza del Sol. We went to have some patatas bravas and a couple of, I don't know, tinta de verano. Sangrias for you foreigners out there. They tried to scam us by putting like 3 or 4 tinta de veranos in the ticket. And I said, no, 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 like take them off. We didn't have that. Oh, sorry. But then I didn't notice the prices in general, like patatas bravas, like just a small plate of for anyone wondering, patatas bravas, it's like fried potatoes and then there's like this bravas sauce. I guess that's a grossly simplified explanation. It's
It's like
usually
ketchup.
kind of, yeah. Someone will smack your face for saying that, but yeah, kind of a spicy ketchup, let's say that,
Yeah.
and some mayonnaise. Maybe that's what I got at that place.
Hmm.
Anywho, eating that, I don't remember the price. Maybe it was like 12 euros or
The
something.
tapa. It was a
Yeah,
tapa.
I think so. Just like a crazy high price for something that I would expect. Like drinks and the patatas bravas 3 years ago, I would expect you pay 6, 7 euros, but not like 12 or maybe even 13. Maybe I'm exaggerating slightly, but all that to say, tourist traps, they're always expensive and you get scammed.
Right. I have no business being in Seoul. What are some of your favorite things about Madrid? Besides the creative, like things that you know for sure, not things that you think.
A broad generalization from the first time that I went to Madrid was walking around and taking in architecture. I'm not an architecture nerd at all, but the combination of nice architecture and the scale, the size of buildings and streets, it was mesmerizing for me. I think if I moved back to Madrid, there will be a few weeks or a month where it would almost feel a bit overwhelming, but in a good way. After that, it would be more subtle, but I would still always appreciate, maybe even just subconsciously, just walking around and taking in architecture, like culture without seeking it out in that sense.
The architecture that is beautiful to you, or it's just different.
Beautiful, but also different, and very much the scale of things. Just the buildings being big, the plazas being big, the squares just taking a while to walk across because it's big. What I'm hoping to have as a favorite thing of Madrid in the future is a combination of culture and knowing some people here. You being one of them, my cousin being one of them, maybe going to a couple of creative co-working spaces, just like to dip my toe in the water. I know There's a friend of mine who's working within like a franchise of co-working spaces. They had a grand opening of a place called Sweeters, I think it's called, last year. I was invited to the opening or like a shoot there. I wasn't able to come, but it looks like a fairly like creative space, like a cool place to like meet some internationals, but maybe someone working here that you can like seek out when you come here every now and then. Co-working spaces have been like a good friend to me, especially in Alicante. Like all my main people that I know either worked at the co-working space, they were connected to it somehow, or friend of a friend from there. So that would be like my strategy here as well.
So I don't know this for sure, but I guess there's many co-working space options.
Oh yeah,
Not that I've seen, but yeah, I guess they're kind of hidden.
there's a lot of them. If you just Google co-working space and even creative co-working spaces, you will get a lot of options. So you can go like co co-working space hopping around. How about you? What's your favorite thing so far about Madrid?
My favorite thing is the variety of new like extracurricular activities that I have here. Specifically golf. We go to the golf course here. And my gym. I just have a lot of nice ways to get out of the house because I'm working from home. So it's nice to leave and be able to do something and not have to think about work, something to just kind of blow off steam. So I have a really nice gym that I like. It has the co-working space actually and the golf course. So many different things that I don't take advantage of.
I get the impression that, like a lot of big cities, there's a lot of free culture events that you can just drop by, like concert of someone new starting up, or there's some nonprofit organization putting up something. And I'm not talking about like protest stuff or like marching, yelling, whatever, but like fun culture things taking place. Oh, buskers as well. I guess there's good amount of them. I saw in the metro one, two, three buskers just the first day. Yeah, just like inside of the metro, but like outside in the paradas, like
Yeah.
the metro stops as well. I was kind of surprised that they were like allowed to. Well, I don't know if they were allowed to be there, but one guy who was connected
To the wall.
to the wall.
I don't know this for sure, but I think they get hired, or I'm not sure if they're like funded by the city because there's people that are like always in the same spot and they have this whole setup. They have
Maybe they not lease it per se, but they have the permit for X amount of time. Like it's their spot. They're allowed to be there. Because I know buskers on street level, I've been told this earlier a few years ago, that you can register with town hall, I guess. You give your NIA and then you have permits and then you have a piece of paper. So if the cops come by, you can like show them, hey, I have a permit. And if there's no special event going on, you can do your thing there.
so do they not have buskers in
No, I think I've seen buskers twice there. Maybe there are more in like the touristy street there that I don't go to too often. But true buskers, I think it's like two, maybe three times I've seen in the duration of several years.
Yeah. Yes, there are lots. I go to school, I take the metro and it takes me like 30 minutes. And I always 9 o'clock in the morning and there's someone playing the guitar, singing off key. It's
Off
like
key.
it's the worst. Sometimes it's nice, but usually I don't feel like listening to people playing.
At 9 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, it's for me I don't like it, but yes, it's every day, multiple times a day.
I will say that I like the idea of buskers, but if I was exposed to it 9 o'clock in the morning every day, I might get worn out.
It's annoying. I have a classmate she always talks about how annoyed she is with the busker.
Yeah.
So I was laughing, like in my head I was laughing when you brought it up because we are sick of it, we're once you're exposed to it every day and you don't have the choice. And most of them don't do a good job. They don't sound good. They don't.
Everyone has to start somewhere, I guess. Well, you could start at home at first and then go into the street, so you have like okay quality.
Or a YouTube channel. Start a YouTube channel, and people that want to hear you, they have the choice. Don't force that on people.
Yeah, that's a good
Well,
strategy.
yeah, I don't know.
Could be
I'm
at
not
least.
against buskers, but
Yeah, like
you
everything,
get tired of it,
you
you
get
know?
tired of it. Yeah. We can start wrapping up, and part of it is Molly. Is there any advice that you would give to someone who's thinking about moving to Madrid?
Bring lots of money.
Because
Because rent is very expensive.
because rent is expensive.
I would say if you're coming here, like if real advice would be come here without a place and then like stay in a few different neighborhoods because they're all so different. And to know which one you really want to live in, you should spend some time before you actually sign a lease. Because I wanted to live in like the city center when I first moved here, but I'm so glad we didn't because it's noisy, there's tourists, it's not the ideal neighborhood. Like it looks nice on paper, but it's in reality you don't sleep at night because people are ringing your doorbell just because they're drunk or people are just obnoxious.
Advice would be one, bring money. Second, try out different neighborhoods. And the third one, maybe not live in the most central area of
Right.
Madrid.
Unless that's what you want. Some people like that. But
Hey, some
I
people
like
feel
sleep.
lonely and they want someone to ring their doorbell, I guess.
Yeah.
My wrap up would be, will I be coming back to Madrid? Short answer, yes. I want to get to know the city a bit more, hang out with a couple of friends, maybe record a couple of podcasts here.
Will it take you another 3 years to do it?
Time will show.
Possibly.
Time will show. No, I will be back before Christmas, I think. At least before Christmas. Okay, the only thing left is to plug our podcasts. If anyone listening to this are thinking about moving in Madrid, if anyone is living in Madrid already, do you agree? Do you disagree with what we're saying? Please leave a comment. Criticize us or praise us. We don't care. We just want engagement.
Right.
We can be found on which platforms, Molly?
We can be found on YouTube, on Instagram, and Spotify.
On Spotify. Don't forget to hit the like, subscribe if you can, and stay tuned for future episodes.
And thank you for watching.
And thank you for watching. So we do adios. We do it on 3 together.
Adios.
Yeah, okay. 1, 2, 3. Adios.
Adios.